him up, talking about the ram in the place of his son Isaac. But if you will take each one of those letters and look at their numerical equivalent, you'll find that it adds up to 127, just like the years of Sarah's life. How many of you remember how old Sarah was when she received the announcement back in Genesis 17:17 from the angel, well, from Yahweh himself, and was told that she was going to conceive a child? And she's visited again along with Abraham in chapter 18 and said, listen, from this date, 1 year from now, being Passover, you will have a son. How old was she? She was 90. But if you look at 90 plus 1 year, she's 91 when he's actually born, right? It's not hard to do that math. So, if you look at that number 91, now remember, these numbers are just as pertinent as the Hebrew letters themselves because they are coded together with the letters. 91 is a numerical value or gematria of Strong's number 436. That word is Elon. And you see it back in Genesis chapter 18 where Abraham is sitting in the plains of Mamre underneath an oak called the oak of Mamre. Remember that? And that word there is Elon, and Elon is the Hebrew word for terebinth or long-lived tree. Are you hearing me? The root of the word Elon is Strong's number 352. That word is Ayul, and it means a male ram for sacrifice. And so now there's a connection to the 127 years of Sarah's life and this long-lived or covenant tree and the sacrifice of a ram. Sounds something like what may have happened to the Messiah and her son as well. Number 91 is also the gematria of Strong's number 4397. That word is a malach, which means an angel or a messenger. Same consonants in 4427, the word malach, which means king. The same consonants also in 4432, that word is Molech. And Molech happened to be a pagan god of the Amorites, listen to this, who required child sacrifices. So you have to ask yourself, what does her age at the birth of Isaac have to do with this evening's teaching? Well, what's happening here is it's telling us that at her age at birth reminds us of a king who would be offered, Melech, a king who would be offered as a sacrifice upon the covenant tree, an ayul upon the elon. Are y'all getting this? Yes, sir. It also reminds us that there will be a counterfeit Melech, a counterfeit king known as Molech, a pagan one who would come trying to be imitating the true God, wanting to be the king in the mode of Lucifer, and he would be known as the Antichrist or the Anti-Messiah. Isn't that odd that all of these numbers are telling this story here? Now, as we continue to look in Genesis 23:1, you find that the first 4 words in that phrase, let me go back and read it for you one more time. Veyehu Chavei Sarah Meah. And the life of Sarah was, that word Meah is 100 years. If you look at the numerical value of each one of those letters, and I hope I'm not boring you because if you will listen to this teaching tonight, you'll begin to get a fundamental working knowledge of how important Hebrew and the study, the language in these numbers are. If you add up the numerical value of each letter, it totals 616. 616 happens to be the numerical value of the phrase called HaTorah. HaTorah means the Torah or the Word. Now, if you add the simple value of that number, 616, it totals up to 13. 13 is a number for the bride. So you find that now there's a connection being made between the bride and the Torah. And number 13 also is the gematria of another word in Hebrew that you should be familiar with. That word is ahava, which means love. And another word that 13 is represented by, and that is the word echad. So, if you look at what's being defined here in the numerical value, these 4 words in that phrase, it's literally telling you that the years of Sarah, 127, represent the beloved bride of Torah who in her ahava was made echad with Messiah. That ought to excite you. I want to be echad or one with him, don't you? Praise Yah. Now I want to look a little bit further. I want to look at that word chaya, and it's Strong's number 2425. It means to live. It indicates, in this instance, the length or tenure of a person's life. It's also identical to 2421 chaya, which means to be alive. Turn to your neighbor and tell them, I'm glad you're a chaya, alive. Did you know without the word of Yahweh inside you, you are not chaya? You're not alive. You're a walking dead person. Hello? Go back and read Romans chapter 7 and find out. That word chaya carries the connotation of something or someone being revived, healed, preserved. And it's inferring that it is the Torah that does the reviving. Hallelujah. Can I ask, whoa, wait just a second. How many of you ride by some of the churches and you see the signs, we're having a revival? And yet the Torah is absent from the congregation and teaching, and it makes you wonder what's being kindled and revived and restored or made alive. Hello? Yes, I went there. There's another closely related word to that word chaya, Strong's number 2332. That word is kavah. And kavah is the name of Eve that you find in Genesis chapter 3 when Adam makes a statement, and she shall be called Eve, kavah. Why? Because she was the mother of all living. I literally believe that that phrase should have been rendered, she is the mother of the living, inferring that he understood Genesis 3:15, that there was a war between the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman, and the woman would be the vehicle that the living would come through. Are you with me? Hallelujah. There's a thread then that you can find in this first 4 verses that's connecting Sarah to the resurrection and the restoration of Eve. Remember the past, her connection to Eve, that you see there in Genesis chapter 3. And you can also begin to look in the root word of this word kaya, Strong's number 2416. That word is kai, which means life and living. Everything in creation has kai, the life of Yahweh in it. However, it's from the root of 2421, chaya, which means to have life, to live again. It means to be restored, to be made alive, to be called back to life. And I got news for you. Not everything in creation is going to enjoy this restoration or calling back to life. Hello? There are some religions that teach reincarnation. But there's only one Elohim that's able to reincarnate you or resurrect you. Hallelujah. He'll take you from dust, which you were made from and which you will return to, and give you a supernatural body and form you into His image. No other entity that's called a deity in creation. Allah can't do that. Muhammad can't do that. Krishna can't do that. Buddha can't do that. Are you with me? That word kavah, the name for Eve, means more than just mothering the live one. Hallelujah. Shouldn't you have the live one on the inside of you? Woo, woo. It was said of me when I was coming up, he's a lively child. Hallelujah. That word kaya means to tell, to declare, to show, to make something known, to breathe it out. Did you hear what I just said? What are you breathing out? There was a movie a number of years ago, and I'm just going to take a license and pull that title out, and it was called Waiting to Exhale. You and I should be so full of the breath of Yahweh that we're waiting to exhale Him in every situation that's presented to us. Hallelujah. We should be willing to exhale Him, to breathe Him, and in the breathing it's telling, declaring, and showing Him, making Him known in every situation we're in. Makes you want to shout, doesn't it, Miss Angela? That's the name that's given to Eve, and this is being replicated in Sarah. Amen? It was a prophetic word meaning that Eve would reveal, declare, and make known again the breath of lives, which is exactly what's happening here to Sarah. Amen? I want to look at the 3 Hebrew letters in that word kaya. The ket, the yod, the hey. The ket, of course, is the 8th letter, and number 8 means new beginnings, but it also is a shadow picture of a fence. What does a fence do? It protects. It keeps some out, keeps some in. I want to be in. Hello? Amen. Praise Yah. It's the number of life and the number of light as well. The sages teach every Hebrew letter was formed from a yod, the smallest letter. And in this instance, if you look at the way the ket is formed, you can see a vav in it, and you can see a zayin. Vav is a 6 letter, zayin's a 7. 6 is indicating, if you understand the sages, it represents light as well. And the number 6 represents the light that was with Yahweh. In the beginning was the Word. He was the light. And what did he do? He came down here with us. Zion, number 7, represents what's referred to as Kozer light, and that's the light that was here and it returns to him. Yeshua was the light of this world, came down here, dies, is resurrected, and once he do, he returns to him, but he left a flame kindled. The spirit of man is the what? Is the candle of Yahweh. And so you and I are the Kozer light. We're the light that is going to return to him. Can you just fathom what I'm talking about? When he says, let there be light. Remember, we were talking about the Hebrew language. I hope you can get this picture. The Hebrew language being the DNA of Yahweh, every letter is a particle of light. The entrance of his word brings light. So as he releases a word, he literally explodes and exudes light. There are light particles just exploding out from him, emanating from him, and going out into the universe, out into creation, and you just happen to be a repository that has received millions of particles of the light of Yahweh on the inside of you. Prior to Genesis chapter 3, you and I walked around clothed in that light. Sin caused us to have to have the blood of the Lamb, which was congealed light, cover us. Once we are birthed into the family of Yahweh again, that DNA is recharged. It's sort of like taking you and sticking you into a battery charger. Hello? Your light's being charged. Come on, somebody. The more word you get on the inside of you, the more your candle power intensifies us. Hallelujah. Some of you went from a AAA battery to one of them 10 million candle power spotlights. Hello. Woo-woo. Turn to your neighbor and tell him, I'm a floodlight. Oh, hallelujah. Praise Yahweh. Let's look at that Hebrew letter, Yod. Yod is the 10th letter, and of course it's the number of completion and governmental perfection. It was the atom of creation, the beginning of all letters. And finally you have the Hebrew letter, Hey, the 5th letter, the number of grace. And it's not sloppy grace, that accidental grace that you just fell into that the church teaches. And I'll be honest with you, and it seems like I'm knocking the church. I'm not knocking the church. I'm knocking some of the doctrine and theology. Because grace, hear me well, is not free, unmerited favor. Grace cost the life of Messiah. Okay? And the first reference of grace is in Genesis chapter 6 where Noah found grace, and it's inferring there very strongly that the only way he received that grace that enabled him to go into the ark was simply because he did not bow his knee to the fallen ones and the plans of the enemy in the earth. He kept his life pure. So he was obedient to the word of Yahweh. That's how you get grace. Amen. That letter Hey represents the breath of Yahweh, and it also is implying behold. In other words, stop, pay attention, look. Something's about to be revealed. Revelation is on its way. So if you look at these 3 Hebrew letters, Ket, Yod, and Hey, it's inferring there's a new beginning for the bride, and that new beginning takes place when the light of Yahweh passes through the open door. That door is the womb, by the way, and is received with the atom of creation. You begin to see the completion of all things for those who are obedient to receive that breath of Yahweh, which is a revelation of Messiah. That's exactly what happened to Sarah. Sarah's womb was dead. She was 90 years old. And they told her she's going to have a baby. You go back and look at it. She laughed at them. She said, shall I have pleasure now that I'm old? Go back and look at the word pleasure. We talked about it last night. It is the word Eden. Shall I return to Eden? She understood that she was replicating the life of Eve. I hope you're enjoying this teaching thus far. Thank you for listening. Shalom Aleichem.